Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Better Call Saul Season 1, Episode 4, Hero. So this episode of Better Call Saul felt like kind of a letdown compared to last week's episode, which had my adrenaline pumping and got me all excited, whereas this week was a bit slower, but it was still a good episode. I know a lot of people who don't like judging shows like this episode by episode because the whole series makes up one story, and judging an episode is kind of like judging a chapter of a book. However, I do judge chapters individually. For example, in The Feast for Crows, I liked the Cersei chapters, but I didn't like the Brienne chapters. I think it's perfectly justifiable to judge each episode on its own, especially considering they each have different writers, directors, editors, and whatnot. But at the same time, I understand slow episodes like this one are necessary to the overall story being told, so I don't begrudge it. So Hero begins with the flashback where we see Saul as he used to be a con artist, which explains what kind of petty crime he used to be involved in, which we learned about in last week's flashback. It also explains a lot about his character, how he functions as a lawyer, or at least how he will learn to function as a lawyer. It also explains how he spotted those two skateboarding scam artists so easily. We also see the origins of his name, Saul Goodman, as he tells his drinking buddy, Saul Goodman. I never made that connection before, but I'm sure the writers had thought about this when they first created the character in Breaking Bad, so it's interesting to learn how he created the name. But I had a few problems with this grifting scene. It seemed that a lot of things could have gone wrong in this con, and it was really far-fetched that some random guy he met at a bar would react in the exact way that Saul wanted him to, rather than simply taking the wallet and leaving. And that guy just happened to have $500 in cash to give Saul. I found it a little far-fetched, but I think the fact that he was a con artist will be very important to the character going forward. So the next scene, we get Saul bargaining with the Kettlemans about him discovering the money that they stole. And this scene bothered me as well, because I've seen this several times in TV shows and movies where there's a negotiation and someone who clearly has the upper hand foolishly lets himself be talked down because it's necessary for the plot going forward. In this case, Saul clearly had the upper hand. He wanted the Kettlemans to take him as their lawyer. They said no and wanted to offer him a bribe instead to keep him quiet. But the thing is that they were all freaked out about him telling on them, so Saul could have used that. As I said, he clearly had the upper hand, so he could have gave the Kettlemans an ultimatum where they had to take him on as a lawyer or he'd tell on them. And because they were all freaked out, and he knew it would have worked, regardless of what they said about Saul being a lawyer for guilty people. I guess them saying that to him might have deflated his ego a bit, and that's why he took the bribe. But that doesn't quite jive with his con artist nature. I mean, he was kind of grifting them from the start, where he was pretending to be outraged and that he'd go to the cops. All he needed to do was to keep that up, and he would have had them, so I'm not really buying it. It was really interesting, the speech he gave to Nacho after he got him out of prison, that he was lucky that Saul stopped him from doing something stupid. I think Nacho was convinced at the end. I think here we're getting a bit of the origins of Saul teaching criminals to be better criminals, as he did with Walt and Jesse in Breaking Bad. I have a feeling that he'll end up doing the same for Nacho, and that he'll get that's how he'll get started. And the scene with him and Mike, where he was congratulating Mike and he didn't really care, that was really cool. But I wanted more on these characters and their interactions with Saul. There was much more interesting to me than Saul hanging out with the lawyer chick or the rivalry he has with her boss. But I know, it's necessary to the overall story, but I find their stuff a bit less interesting. Also, the stuff with his brother, tad bit boring as well. The montage they did with him calling all the media agencies was a tad unnecessary and really thought it dragged on a bit too long for me. But the scam he pulled with saving the billboard guy was pretty interesting. It's Saul learning in order to be a good lawyer and to get the clients he wants, he basically has to fall back to his con artist type behavior. That was all interesting. It's all, it's okay for the overall story, I guess. So my rating for Hero is a 6. Good. A decent episode, but definitely my least favorite so far. But as I said, I'm sure it's necessary and will all pay off eventually. So that's it for my review of Hero. Make sure you subscribe to keep up with the future Better Call Saul reviews I'll be doing. And thanks a lot for watching.